Oh, that's funny.
All right.
Goodness.
Pam, you want to start us off? I will share my screen.
Yes. Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's so much fun just to be able to get together and just chat for a few minutes in the morning before. Another good thing about having conferences like this, sitting in a big space, you know, spread out in a room in a conference center, we don't get to do this. And so it's nice just to getting to chat. So we'd like to formally welcome you guys to the first ever Saturday CapCUE Connect bite-sized PD. This came out of the brilliant minds of our professional learning community as I think a great option for short little bites on Saturday morning about really important topics. And we've got formative assessment as our first topic this Saturday. And we want to do what we've just been doing in the last 10 minutes, connect and share and celebrate and learn and grow. And so we're excited to have this very kind of informal, organic conversation this morning and share a little bit about what everybody's doing in terms of formative assessment. And this is, brought to you by the wonderful CapCUE board. And we really appreciate you guys being on here with us this morning and jumping into many of our PDs. And I know that, Chris, you have come before and we're excited to see you back again. And whoops, I lost my screen there for a second. Hold on. And welcome to Alice too. We're glad to have you guys here this morning with us. So I'm going to turn it over to Tanis, who's going to kind of kick off kind of our format for the day.
All right, so the way we have it planned is that we are going to share some of our favorite ways for providing formative assessment for our students. And then we want to have you share some ways that you like to offer formative assessments for your students. And then we can have a roundtable discussion and all of that. So that is our plan for the day. And I'm going to go by really fast because this is only an hour. We'll be done by 10. So without further ado, is there one of our board members? So these board members said they have something a little bit to share, and who would like to go first?
I can go first. I'm
Okay.
always that person that goes, let me get it over with. No. And because mine's not like terribly like super exciting. So I recently, I'm recently out of a classroom. So I did not do distance learning with little people. I did it with adults. So I taught a couple classes through some adult classes for the interns at PCOE at the Department of Education. And I found for them the best way for me to check for understanding and for them to keep everything organized, especially because we were totally online. What they hated was having to do, okay, turn this in here, turn this in here. It was like too many little pieces. What I loved doing for them was each of them got their own slide deck. So I would make a slide deck for each assignment. And then, everyone got that same slide deck and they just made a copy because we used Canvas. And then just each slide, it would be their own little check for understanding. Like, okay, on this slide, do this activity. So, and then I can quickly see, are they getting it? And that's that. What is that view called again? Where you can see all the slides at once?
Grid view.
Grid view.
Grid view. That's really cool too. If I had given them all one slide, and I've done that before too, if I give them all one slide, then I can look at grid view and see how they're doing. Usually in groups, I would do one slide deck, but I just found giving them a slide deck and having them do activities instead of having them, write this on this, turn in a doc with this and turn it, it was too complicated for them. So that's what I use. And it's easy for me to go through and check it. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Christina. All right, who'd like to go next?
Good, yeah.
I can go. So mine too is very easy. Just kind of, I'm not in the classroom either, but supporting my teachers, especially in the last year when all this happened, and all of a sudden all of the 1,000 little ways that you can do formative assessment in very informally in the classroom went away. And they were looking for ways, and we were looking for ways to support them that were familiar to the kids and very easy to use. Like Christina said, not complex. Is one of the first ones that was the go-to for all of us was the Google Classroom question. And we model that in our PD that we do for teachers in our curriculum instruction team, just modeling those sorts of tools. And that one is so simple and so easy and so known to students that there's no hoopla about where do I go, what do I do, how do I do this, and just such an easy way to get quick feedback on a very consistent basis with kids and with students.
So I'll jump on the Google little train here so we can just like wrap it all up. Slides in Classroom for me has been instrumental, moving from all distance learning to a hybrid program to a modified day, and now this is our last week was our first week, or this week was our first week full day with lunches and everything. So I think Google has really helped my students stay consistent. I want to share my screen because I have some fun things that I've been using. Let me get the right one here. So I've really enjoyed using Google Forms and Sheets. I'll just be honest, as a data nerd. I've resisted it for a while, but just can't help getting some good data in a meaningful way. And so one of the things that I did during the when we got first locked down was I did a weekly check-in with my students. I was asked by the principal to make sure I know which students are engaged, which ones are not. I mean, this is the first time we've ever had to do this. So I turned right to a form and just asked, how you doing? 1 through 5. And I could get their email address. And if they, had a 1, I could email them right away. And then I just did some fun questions of the week and, how have things been going for you? Are you getting things done? And I got a ton of great data. I had 369 responses in like the few weeks we had at the end of the year. It was almost 370 responses from my students over the course of several weeks. So that was really fun. And then recently, I used a Google form to do a March Madness for a dynasty, Chinese dynasty lesson that we're doing. And so I paired up all the Chinese dynasties, and they had to vote which one they would like to learn more about and why did they choose it. And then this was the important one because at the end, I got all of this information from my students. I could see where they're going. And then for the final, they had all this data available to them as well. So they made their own study guide from this form. And then I put together all the information on a spreadsheet. And what was really cool is that we actually had a live bracket. And so we broke it down. Each day would be a different dynasty pairing. And so by the end, we had the winner, which was the Tang Dynasty. And what was really cool is that was their final. They chose it. The students chose the final exam. And then I sent them this. I said, even if your team didn't win, here's some information that your friends wrote down for these different dynasties. So they had their study guide made by students. So this is a huge formative assessment for me, just to be able to see where my students were, and they helped each other out. So that's kind of fun to do with Google Forms and Sheets. It's a great pairing. And I think I have to let me get my.
I love how Corey, you just go like, this is awesome. Like, and I built, and then like, we're like, how in the hell did you do that?
I would suggest that you start off with some simple formulas. I teach my students like a counting formula. It's so cool to see them, be able to, how many times does this word show up? How many times does this happen? Just simple formulas like that. And then you just build it from there. And I just taught myself over the last year how to, do some simple formulas and put it all together. It's really cool. A good combination for formative assessments.
That's so cool, Corey.
An effective
cool.
use of data, right? And collaboration, because now if they're sharing that opportunity to learn from one another, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Super powerful.
Ah.
And it's fun.
There.
Totally fun.
Corey, didn't you showcase this at CapCUE with a ice cream bracket, and we
I
were all
did, yeah.
horrified at the end result, but it was super fun to do it. A great way to showcase it.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Great. Well, now we have to say what it was.
It was
The winner, he did.
chocolate mint chip.
Go
I
ahead,
think.
Corey,
Did
you
mint
tell.
chip win?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hell
mint chip
yeah.
Yes.
As
That's
it
awful.
should have.
win. Yeah.
How can midship win? I'm sorry.
I'm totally on board with the dynasty that won, but I'm not on board with mint chip winning.
That's good.
Right.
Uh,
Totally.
That'd be a
Oh.
fun little
All right, Nicole or Jamie.
school starter thing. So.
I'll go next.
Okay, Jamie.
So I
Awesome.
think when we're talking about using Google Slides, right? So many of us are already doing that in our everyday, right? Planning all of our lessons, getting that all together. And so what ended up happening is when we went from distance learning and into hybrid, so I'm talking, this is October, our team was talking about how are we going to move forward with our lesson plans when we have kids who are coming 2 days a week? Are we going to do the live lessons, and then when the students come, we'll do the exact same lessons, do the repeat model, which is half the amount of planning and again half the amount of content that you would be able to get through during that time. And so I'm like, there has to be a better way. And so lots of teachers were going back to the idea of, well, we all have our kids, they'll be synchronous at home and they'll just do what they do, and I'll just teach to the kids in the class. And I was thinking about this and I'm like, there has to be a better way. How can we check in and see what students are doing in real life time and be able to give that feed forward feedback in the moment? How can we make it so that we have less work and that students are getting exactly what they need? And over the summer is when it kind of, learning from over the summer is kind of where I'm like, I think I know what the answer is. And the answer was Pear Deck for me. I already make Google Slides. So all I have to do is add an extension. I've got this. And during that time of the summer, I'd learned the differences between Pear Deck and Nearpod. And I was a hardcore Nearpod fan, but I'm not a huge fan of Nearpod's Google Slides extension. I love their platform when you are in Nearpod, but I love Pear Decks when you're in Google Slides, how to add. So this is just an extension that I've added here. And I'm able to easily start a lesson and get a link out to students. And if students are in the chat, you can drop a link in the chat, or I just put it in Google Classroom. I only have 2 students who are at home. I can get them into the chat, or they can just access it, especially if they get kicked out. They know where that link is going to be. All of my students log into the classroom and I can clearly see what's happening. And so what's really nice about Pear Deck is that you can have students add text, you can have a multiple choice, you can have a number, and it will show on a number line where the answers lie. So you can see like how close did they get to the correct answer. I'm solving for accuracy, and you can also see patterns and errors really quickly that way. You can add a really quick website that students can get a link to. So if you're doing a quizzes, if you're doing a GIMP kit, you can quickly, or we're now into, is it Blookit? I don't know how to pronounce it. I keep calling it Blockit, but I'm not sure. So Blookit, I think is how you pronounce it. But I'm gonna go with Blockit because that's easier for me to say. Then the drawing feature, and this is when you start to talk about that creation component that I really loved. And there's draggables, but I think Pear Deck can kind of up their game on their draggable situation. But let me kind of show you a little bit more about how it's used in the classroom. So when I share out, this is called the presentation view, the presenter's view, and you're able to put co-pilots on here. So you can have, if you have a student teacher, or if you have someone come in, or if you're co-teaching, you can both be on this and see what students are doing in real time. And what's really nice is I'm able to, this is the slide that I'm projecting for students to do, and I can clearly see my students' work in real live time. This student was not on the how I'm able to see exactly how the students are solving in real live time. But the best part is the star function. Now I'm able to say, hey, I really like this one. This is a great example. And it's going to be able to showcase when I present it to my screen that what students in the classroom are doing. And then they're able to, again, have that peer share, the sharing of like, well, this is what I did first, so on and so forth. What's really nice to see the vast variety of strategies that they were coming up to. I teach 3rd grade, so we're just getting started with the distributive property. And I found this to be extremely powerful. And to see, does the student know how to show work for this? Or did they already know, hey, I can look, do they know the trick, or are they skip counting by 40s? So it's really nice to be able to see where students are and then be able to say, maybe the student doesn't know how to show. Let me show an example of someone who did show how they shared their thinking. But what's been really nice is I've seen massive improvement and confidence building and skill building in students. And this is just one of the many slides that we do as a review to kind of dive deeper into what we are looking at. And what was really interesting is when we did ones, this is a draggable slide that I actually had students, I might have skipped it. Maybe I did this one. I'm trying to see, or maybe it's loading. And so it won't drag, but they have the draw function, which I thought was really helpful. And I was able to save this and pull this up today. So if I ever needed to share with a parent what a child is doing in class, or if I needed to bring it to an SST meeting, I'm able to clearly show this is exactly what the student is doing. And it just paints that really clear picture for both student, for parent, and for anyone else in the room who is trying to support the student. Love
Wow,
it.
Jamie, Pear Deck has upped its game since the last time I used it. Love it.
That's some pretty amazing feedback. And I like the idea of the whole, I can take this to a parent meeting, or I can take this and show the parents, you know, at conferences. Such a valuable feedback. That's awesome.
And you have all your students in one place at one time. Not to show, you also get it organized by student so that you would not be sharing with parents, but it's nice to have it all in one space.
And that it's digital because you're doing parent meetings. You don't have to have that stack of papers, and it's just easy peasy to slap it up on a screen. That's super cool.
Jamie, one of the biggest questions I always get is from teachers is how much time does it take the kids to figure out how to do this? What do you think in terms of your 3rd graders, that what their learning curve was?
So I'm so glad that you asked that. So we started our year with Seesaw, and Seesaw has an awesome drawing function. And so I had that and the kids took to it so easily. And I think because maybe they had some Seesaw experience, but there are so many other, Nearpod has a draw function as well. I actually never saw the student version for like 2 weeks until I had a student that was in our it was a parent who is there's a teacher kid on campus. We had a daycare, and they came to me because they were having issues. So I'm teaching live computer. They're in the library. I'm like, well, come on over. Let me see real quick if I can help you. And that's when I saw the student view for the very first time. And it was actually really, I couldn't figure out at first how to make the pen thinner. You can see they made this pen like really thin.
Right.
And if I go to, I should have just scrolled down. It's loading. It takes a little bit to load. But they took to it so quickly. And my students who are a little, I'm going to say, hesitant to try new things, I felt like they took to it really easily. And what's crazy about this is every day I'll get little notes on slides of like, I love Pear Deck. I love math. Math is so fun because everyone gets to share. Everybody gets the chance to share, and I think they're motivated by it. I don't hear we're going to do this one again, that I hear with even some of the most fun, exciting things where I'm like, really, you're already first time? That is so much fun. But no, they're ready to rock and roll. So I thought it was pretty easy. But great question. And for teachers, I think that's the hang up. And I think where the hang up is going to be is, are you comfortable being able to find the presenter view? And are you comfortable having this is your slide, this is the student slide. And as
Yeah.
soon as you can manage that, then you're good to go.
You're awesome. That's good. Thank you.
I can go. I'm going to share as well. I am talking about quizzes. Let me find what I'm doing. So I am an administrator now, but I was a TOSA last year when pandemic started, and I taught a section of Avid Excel, which is Avid's program designed specifically for long-term English learners to support them. So it gives them the skills that Avid teaches, which is college readiness and organization and study skills and such. But it also is a strong focus on academic language and building capacity in that. So I got to play around with a lot of different tools and stuff, which was really fun, which you don't get to do when you're a TOSA and you leave the classroom. So quizzes combined with an edu protocol called Fast and the Curious, which you guys might be familiar with. I'll show you in a second of how I did that. I just loved the data, like Corey talked about data, the feedback you get as a teacher on quizzes. These are all copies. I wish I could show you, like that was my old district's account, but it might be on there. So I took, like Avid gives them these academic word lists of high frequency vocabulary words, and teaching vocabulary is not exciting, you know, like here's a list of words and their definitions. I was trying to find a cooler way to do that. So what I ended up doing was creating a quizzes that had these academic words on here and some of their definitions, and mixed it up a little bit with, like, you know, select the word that fills in the blanks and just kind of mixing it up. Anywho, so I would assign it for the week, and then when kids would come in, this was my slide that I would have up. This was before we shut down, so this was showing up on the screen in class on Monday morning, and they would log in and they would do that quiz for the very first time on Monday. And then every day of the week after that, they'd come in and do the same exact quiz. So on Monday, the scores on quizzes would be really low, lots of red. It was a good conversation of, yeah, it's probably not, oh, here, these are a different one I'll show. It was a good conversation about growth mindset too, because these are in Avid Excel, and long-term English learners are typically students who haven't experienced a lot of success in their schooling. So they have a really typically negative mindset about learning. So they do it on the first day and it's really hard. And then we talk about, you have the same quiz you're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and look at how your scores have improved each time. And there's no gotcha to it. It's like, nope, the same exact questions. I mean, quizzes, you can turn off shuffle so they can do the same questions in a row, or you can leave it on so they don't just memorize the answers in a row. But then I would tell them on Thursday, the quiz would count as their grade. And then Friday, give them an opportunity to retake it if they wanted to improve their grade. And then we set a goal of, I think 80% accuracy was their goal. So I loved it, and I started playing around with it. Like we did PBIS expectations, and we sent that out as a school-wide quiz that everyone could do. This was our LPAC writing practice that was based on some of the questions they were going to get on the LPAC. So, and that was right when school shut down, so we had to stop that. But anyway, what's also great was I was a TOSA, so I was sometimes jumping in and subbing classes at the last minute. And if we needed a quick, like, trust building thing so that they would listen to a word I had to say, I would sometimes do a little fun quizzes as kind of like an icebreaker warm up. So that was holiday trivia. And what's awesome is quizzes has a huge library of teacher created quizzes. So I would just like Google something, or not Google it, but quizzes, search something real quick. Like I did a Disney one and I just threw it up, and it took 5 minutes, and every single kid in that class was instantly into it. And then I could step in and be their sub for the day. And then I think we did one of these in a staff meeting. Yeah, this was my staff. So we did this as a holiday staff meeting, virtual icebreaker. And we gave the teachers the quiz and put them in teams. So they were all competing together. And it was just super fun. I just love the versatility of it. And I love the data as a teacher side, but it's also, you can use it with adults. I like doing stuff like this in a staff meeting to show teachers new tools and tricks. And everybody was down for quizzes with that. It also takes some creativity to think outside the ABCD response thing, you know, where it's just like, which one is the definition? So I had to kind of get a little creative with that, with like the fill in the blank piece. But there is, I think, a free form answer option. I'm not sure. Can't remember. Anyway, that's quizzes combined sort of with Fast and the Curious, which is another, I love Edge protocols because it just makes it low stakes, less scary for kids to pick up the content.
More repetitive practice, right?
Exactly.
So, thank you. Well, I'll
And
jump in
don't
next.
forget the memes.
And the memes.
The memes.
I don't know why.
And you can make your own.
Yeah. If I had more time, I would definitely make my
Right.
own.
If you had more time in your life, you could make your own memes. I know I had an assistant principal, well, Joe Clark did it once, where he took pictures of us and like made us the memes. So
He has way too much time on his hands.
Well, I'm going to jump in because mine goes along with Nicole's. I have an Edge protocol as well. Convince me that. So this is such a low prep but high yield. Just give the students a problem. It can be math, it could be any content area, and say, convince me that, and then you give them the answer. But they have to convince you that that is the right answer, right? On whatever it is. So this is a math example. And so they can show you in however they want to show you. They can use visuals, you can put it on a slide and have them, do text or numbers or whatever. In science, you can say, convince me that a series circuit is better for, Christmas lights, right? Or is it, right? Or is a parallel circuit better for Christmas lights? So it's super fast to prep. And like I said, all you have to do is find a question, remove that question, and you give them the answer. And students have to convince you that it's true. Think about what that does with students. It slows them down. And since you've already given them the answer, there's not that pressure of, oh, I have to find the right answer. They have to show you their reasoning, right? And it shifts their thinking to be able to communicate what they really do know. You can put them in groups and have them collaborate. And like I said, it's easy to do just on the fly. It doesn't matter what content area it is. So I love this way of providing formative assessment because it is so quick and you can really, really see what kids understand and how they can communicate, and they can keep practicing that. So that's a real fun one.
That's awesome. Who's that? I can't think of who the science teacher is. He teaches at like that private school in San Francisco, but he does it with videos where he shows like
Ramsey.
Thank you. Yes. And he shows the video, right? And he only shows the end, like of the experiment. And then he tells them to go figure out why that happened. So they have to like prove it, right? So you can do it with like video too, which I think is pretty rad.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Awesome. All right. So what we'd like to do now is, let me get back up to here. We'd like to hear from Alice and Chris. Do you have something you'd like to share about formative assessment? What you do, what's your favorite way of offering formative assessment for your students? You don't have to share, but we're offering this time for you.
My better share is actually not formative assessment, but I could see using what you just did, Tanis, with it. Since we're doing concurrent with our hybrid teaching, I put my kids into triads involving one person from each of the cohorts because I've got I'm a really unusual teacher. I've got 2 different cohorts of 10 for in-person and 1 cohort of 9 for distance learning. And so it fits. And I was starting to do it before the first students reported in person, and it was kind of shaky. Just a lot of the kids have gotten desocialized and are not really comfortable interacting at this point after a year. But having one of the members over in the classroom seemed to kind of prompt things along a little bit more. And I can see going over and giving a project like you just did for them to go over and do together over in that breakout room.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, it's not the thing I've been doing is kind of very vanilla and boring. And that's, you know, using the Envision that comes with our Pearson math program to go over and give feedback and analysis. So that's not very interesting. Anybody can figure out how to do that, and it comes with your program.
Yeah, convince me that type of protocol. You can take some of that information from your curriculum and then just pull out one or 2 of the problems and have them work that instead of, you know, all of the problems or all of the quick checks or all of that. You can, you know, have them do fewer problems but dig deeper, right?
Yeah.
Really show understanding. So that's a good one. Awesome. Thank you, Alice.
Janice, I love it. Thank you. I was like, that was fantastic. Like, I've been looking up student-centered mathematics classroom right now. That's a link I had never heard of.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Thank you, Jamie. The student-centered mathematics, because I am a math coach, you know, my world is all math right now. So I forgot to mention the website, Student-Centered Mathematics, offers different ways of using Convince Me That in mathematics. But, you know, but we remember that it doesn't have to be in that mathematics realm. It could be any content area, right? In your, Corey mentioned the dynasty. Convince me that the Tang dynasty is the best one, right? Or is better than the Ming dynasty, or, you know, however you want to do that. There's so many ways to offer.
Oh, it's interesting. I did that for science with Pangea, and it said, you know, I don't think that Pangea was, you know, existed. Convinced me, you know, changed my mind. I did a change my mind that it, you know, that the continents have always been where they're at. Changed my mind, and 99% of my students were able to use the, you know, things they learned. I had one student though, his family does not believe that the Pangea existed, and so I had to accommodate that. You know, I didn't want to step on toes or anything like that, but I'm like, this is science, and we have to use what we, you know, observe and stuff like that. But he's like, no, my family does not believe that. They think that, you know, and got into religious part. I'm like, all right, we're done. I'm done talking. So it'd be interesting to, you know, that whole idea of convince me or change my mind. You really get an insight into how your students think and what their families think too, which is kind of fun to, you know, understand more about them, so you can make those connections. So I think formative assessments can help you connect with your students because you do get authentic information.
Right.
So I think for fall CUE, you need to convince me that mint chip ice cream is the winner. I'm sorry.
Show me the data.
I need to follow up.
We're gonna ask for a booth, and we're gonna put Corey there with one of those signs.
Mint chip ice cream is the best. You changed my mind.
Convince me that allows.
I get free ice cream, right? Everyone's gonna bring me free ice cream. No, peanut butter chocolate's the best one. Here you go. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna be like, whoa, at the end of the conference.
Go ahead, Jamie. What were you saying?
But what I really like the idea of it, convince me that, or the would you rathers, or all those types of open-ended, that depending on what the question is, that there could be many right answers. And I think that is when you really create that high ceiling, low floor, so that everyone can participate and everyone can really grow in their thinking skills.
Yeah. And you're offering students more opportunities to practice communicating, right? And share their thinking and collecting their thoughts and organizing them. How am I going to express this, right? So many different ways for that.
one of Nicole's, when Nicole was talking about quizzes and she used the word gotcha, it made me think there was an Edutopia article about formative assessment, but it was talking about how it's, formative assessment is not gotcha. But I just thinking, this is me reflecting as a parent on my own kids in the classroom and the way that their teachers do this. Everything we're talking about today is all very kid-centric in terms of making them see that this is a resource for me. That this is something that I always have access to, that I can go back to at any time as I'm trying to, study or figure out what I don't know. That is just such a big shift. And it's a shift for kids, because having high school kids whose teachers in recent years have shifted more to this kind of thinking and using, formative assessment in this manner. But when they were in middle school, it really wasn't necessarily that way. It was more, I guess, old school, kind of like, here's your quiz, here's your end of the chapter test. That seeing them kind of shift to realize that it's like, it's not the gotcha, it's not the one and done. It's that I have all these things at my fingertips and I need to remember and know that they're there to help me.
And to add to that too, Pam, what I have loved seeing a shift is like kind of come out of PLC culture maybe too, but that the science of the profession of teaching, that the shift of like teaching is no longer going to your filing cabinet, pulling out your October folder, and that's what you teach, and then you get it or you don't get it. Now there's, I think, a much greater conversation that's been going on for a few years about that teaching is a science and that your students you're measuring data constantly. And I think that was a slow shift, like everything in education, but more and more teachers are seeing the value of studying their students and finding ways to do it that is also, as a byproduct, like maybe sometimes unintentionally, makes learning so much more engaging for kids. And it's like tricky getting that. It's a tricky way to get in data back for the teacher to study, but making it fun, which I think is so cool and just makes us look like we know what we're doing more.
Well, and I think that one of the things you really touched on was that the more formative feedback we can get from the students, the more information we get from them, I can actually tailor my summatives more around what they want to do. And I give them some choices. And I think that's going to be the important shift in education, is not relying on this one and done and multiple choice, fill in the answer. I don't like doing that kind of stuff. I was never that kind of student. And I always struggled in school because I was put into this little small narrow thing that said you have to write your 5-paragraph essay. What if I want to animate it? What if I want to tell my story in a different way? What if I want to, make a slide deck that is, interactive? That would be, I think, better. So I like the idea of, really finding that formative assessments and really reading your students before giving that summative, so you're giving the best summative you can for them, and they're going to do the best job they can on it.
So great. I'd like to offer Chris. Chris, do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, first of all, thanks again for allowing me to come. I just, I've heard a couple awesome things today. I keep hearing about EduProtocols books, so I have to get those to check them out. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from everybody. So that's a definite thing I need to get. I'm super excited to, Jamie, what you shared about Pear Deck. We're getting that next month for our staff, and we'll have it for the next 3 years. And I'm really looking forward to that because we've struggled a lot this year in my district. Normally Seesaw is our formative assessment go-to tool. And our elementaries just came back to the classroom like 4.5 weeks ago. And we also have students who are still in virtual learning. And because we have students in virtual learning, we've not been able to have the feature on to have students be able to see each other's work. And so teachers haven't been able to really leverage that for students being able to see the multiple different ways to solve problems. So I'm really excited to see in Pear Deck that teachers will be able to maybe use that star feature that I saw there to kind of feature all those different ways, because I think that is huge for students to be able to, if they're struggling to figure out what to do or what the right answer might be, to be able to see someone else's answer, or just to be able to see that the teacher isn't always looking for just one right answer, that there could be multiple different ways, multiple creative ways to solve that problem. So I think that will be huge for us. We also have a group of science specialists at the elementary level who have been developing book creator books for all of their science units, and then they push those out to the students, and the students can they have a lot of different activities. They've got some drag and drop, some fill in the blank, some drawing activities. So just really trying to have many different ways for students to show what they're learning about those topics, and to kind of get a feel for what students know before they start that unit, and then collecting that book, and then collecting the book again at the end of the unit to kind of see where students learning and perceptions change during whatever the unit was about. So those have been some of the tools that the teachers have been using in my district to kind of collect some formative assessment at the elementary level anyway.
Thank you. And Alice has her hand up. So Alice has her hand up.
So I thought of one thing that I have done and that that's come up. And that is, I have that one kid, that one super bright kid who's like all working ahead and totally on his own program at the same time, but he gets all the work done. And needless to say, I wasn't surprised after third grade to find out that because we'd just done the GATE testing before we went to lockdown, that he qualified for GATE. And we had been doing, because we've got old science books that aren't under the NGSS, doing electricity, and he went over and did this entire drawing of clouds with like pluses for the positive charges and negatives for the negative charges, and how they were coming together and creating thunder and lightning, and an entire illustration of it outside. He wasn't just copying the one that was in the textbook, he did his own, and was explaining it to me. And so what I have done with kids in the past is, and I need to put it back up there because I think I took it down at some point, was on my Google Classroom having a Flipgrid for reports. And so if kids come up with something like that, I go over and I tell them, hey, why don't you go over and make me a Flipgrid for that? Because it gives them an audience beyond me to go over and share with the kids. And also Flipgrid was really a game changer with my IEP kids. I've got 3 kids on IEPs, and 2 of them are actually progressing. I mean, they're still, but I think they've had some gains that, beyond a grade level, which is really unusual in distance learning. And fortunately, they're the 2 who are coming back also for in-person. But one of the girls, not great at reading, not great at writing, but I would have her do her book reports, like the reading response that the other kids did over on Google Form. I would have her do it as Flipgrid, and she's quite loquacious. I didn't realize that. She really bloomed over in that. And so I put it in as an accommodation on an ongoing basis, because it doesn't matter if she's in distance learning or not. She needs stuff like that. And then I've just started, I've got kids who I had as 3rd graders, then I took that 3rd grade class and added a couple more on and looped up to 4th grade with them. So this is the time when I need to transition them to a lot of like the tools that they're going to need. And so with those IEP kids and some other kids who aren't quite there but might qualify for a 504 or just a little below grade level, having them use the read write toolbar, really making sure that they knew how to use that, and then to go over and correct the mistakes that inevitably come when you do speech to text. That's like the important part, not to just have them, okay, it's done, I'm going to submit it, but kind of look through it and read it and see if it makes any sense. So anyway, I don't know if that helps anybody, but like Flipgrid was my win.
And I think Flipgrid for IEP students as an option is amazing. I've gotten more out of my students, especially during the at home teaching. I was able to do some fun Flipgrids. We did a Spirit Week Flipgrid. The kids shared their everything. And I think it brings out more in the kids because it is, is their levels video. They love that kind of stuff and all the cool little things you can do with it. But for my IEP kids, it was fantastic to watch them, grow and actually be able to share in a meaningful way. I did the same thing almost with Google Slides. They make an animation, and I had an IEP student that had never been able to write a paragraph in their lives, and they got their first A because they were able to animate the chemical formula for photosynthesis. I knew they knew it, but they just couldn't write it down.
They described it visually.
It was all visual, and they had all the chemicals going in and all the things working. And I showed them once how to animate, and they're like, "This is my first A I've ever gotten," because I let them, pick the way that they enjoy doing it. So, and I felt bad because it had to wait till 7th grade for them to finally get, share their learning in a meaningful way. Versus just filling in a bunch of bubbles and trying their best to regurgitate information. So the more we can use kind of tools, it's amazing. It's fun.
Who's that guy that Jack?
For this reason.
Yeah, is it Jack Horner, the one who's like the paleontologist? And he did like the TED Talk on creating the chicken as a dinosaur. I like to show that to my kids and tell them that guy had serious dyslexia. He could not, he really, really struggled, but he's got a PhD, and it's because he was very dogged about pursuing his interest. And that usually makes my IEP kids feel pretty good. And then who doesn't want to go over and make their own dinosaur that turns out to be a chicken?
Right? Well, Corey, I don't know if you saw, there was a comment in the chat asking about how to get emails when kids fill out forms or have a specific response to a specific question. Do you know how to, you're our Google Forms guru in our group, so do you have a recommendation?
There we go. Okay, so I want to share my screen again, and I'll show you where to get that. So in a Google form, let me move you guys over, the settings option, the little gear here, you can click on it. And one of the options is to collect email addresses.
Yeah.
I always turn this off because then it's like a quiz or a little formative. I don't want them getting a copy of their answers to share with their friends. But you can turn that off. But this is where you collect their email addresses, and it comes right into that spreadsheet. They weren't in the spreadsheet I showed you because it's being recorded and it had student email addresses on it, but I did hide those columns from you guys. So, but yeah, you can definitely collect email addresses, and that's great for that how are you doing form. Then you can see if anybody did a 1, hey, there's your email address, copy it, paste it into an email, and send it out to them. I also do it for families as well. So you can turn off your restricted to only your district. You can actually send it out to parents and reach out to the parents. How they doing? Get some feedback from them as well. So yeah, that's where it is.
Do you, Alice, I think I read it differently. Do you want to get an email when they respond?
Yeah, so and I think
Okay.
I think Alice Keeler or somebody may have done like an add-on to go over and look through. And
well, actually in the spreadsheet, so in the spreadsheet itself, when anything you can do under tools, there is a notification, and you can have it whenever there's a new entry, it'll email you.
Okay.
Can you share your screen, Corey?
It's like pointing at things that aren't even on the screen anymore. All right, so in the spreadsheet, so I send all the information to a spreadsheet.
Right.
I like spreadsheets.
And I do it that way too. I don't let it just sit out there.
Yeah, so in the tools, there's a notification
rules. Okay.
Anytime someone changes it or a user submits a form. So this is really kind of cool that anytime someone submits that form, if it's tied to a form, you just select that, and then right away or at the end of
Or-
the day saying, people
Yeah,
have made changes at, and you get it in the afternoon, and you go back and check on it. I do this especially afterwards if a student turns it in late. If it's not through Classroom or something like that, and I don't know, it could go, a long time. I will
Right.
definitely set up those notification rules to help me.
okay. Very useful stuff.
Awesome. So I'm looking at our time and we're almost at the end. So just to let you know, based on the voting, it looks like offering feedback to students will be the topic of our next session, and how to provide actionable feedback, right? Where you and the students or that we and the students are acting upon. And that will be on May 15th. So another 1 hour bite-sized PD. These are some of the other times. So we'll do another bite-sized PD. We're going to take a break because we have summer months and we have other things going on. So our next bite-size after May will be in August. And in September, we're hoping to have a bigger event, like we did our Survivor event and a couple months ago. And then in October, we have Fall CUE. And so we'll have our meetup at Fall CUE. And then we'll do another bite-sized PD in November. And we'll take December off because that's busy, right? All right. Well, we appreciate you being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will, I hope you found this valuable time. And I'm trying to do two things at once. I'm copying the feedback form link. Here you go. There you go. It's in the chat. So thank you so much for being here and sharing and listening, helping us connect and grow and learn together. So everything that I've learned quite a bit today about some other ways of thinking about formative assessment. And so this is great. Thank you. Any other last thoughts or
Thank you to Tanis and Jamie and Corey and the whole PL team for putting this all together. This is another great Saturday. It's awesome.
Oh, you know what? I forgot. Tanis, I just put down that I didn't want a certificate, but I'm going to ask for one. Can you?
Okay, no problem. I'll make a note.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Thanks, Chris, for joining us.
Yes. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Alice.
Ah.